Choose you this day whom you will serve. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. It's time for a bird video. Chain Play 2 with Budgie Buddies J and K, recorded on July 25th, 2021.
Introduce our heroes. We have Cassie, a 24-year-old survivalist who spends more time tanning than doing actual work, and then we have 25-year-old Forrest, who is actually useful. Out of the 2 seasons of this show that I watched, this was definitely the most polarizing episode. Cassie was the most useless partner on the show, while Forrest was definitely the most resourceful survivor, particularly in his ability to get food and water. That, however, did not stop Cassie from constantly complaining about her partner.
I don't have anything that bad to say about him quite yet, but I'm sure I will come an hour from now.
Even with Cassie pretty much doing nothing, Forrest was still able to carry the team. Of course, she didn't appreciate any of it because Forrest is not a Chad.
As far as being with Forrest naked, it was awkward enough. And then for him to just do that weird, wacky jump up in the air, I was just like, oh God. Cassie described Forrest as being rather full-figured. As he was approaching her, she thought, oh my goodness, really? 21 days?
She was expecting Tarzan.
But it gets even better because this episode is a little bit different from the typical episode. We don't just have 2 survivors, we have 4. Our second team consists of Russell and Manu.
Look at Kay, she absolutely loves that weird
California,
chain.
And Russell is a wilderness survival teacher from Texas. Right from the get-go, you can see the difference between the 2 teams and how this is all going to play out. We get to see the difference between a completely entitled millennial woman versus a woman from a prior generation who is actually useful.
Yeah, this is really strange. I'm kind of creeped out right now.
Starting to get the usual being naked with stranger jitters. It's going to make this as awkward as I can straight off the bat.
Okay. Hey, I'm Cassie. Nice to meet you.
Cassie Forrest, how are you?
A little weirded out.
Yeah, this is what it is. I don't think it's that bad.
It's a little weird.
They just met, and she is already being confrontational. She insults him with an awkward handshake and states how she is uncomfortable around him even after his attempt to break the ice and be friendly. She doesn't even try to pretend to be nice. Remember, this is the person she's going to rely on for survival, and she starts out with behaviors that say, I don't like you.
How goes it? Nice to meet you. What's your name, hon? Manu? Yeah. I'm Russell. Nice to meet you. Officially. Officially. All right. What's that? Almost definitely. Oh, this is definitely team right here. All right. You good with that, hon? All right.
From the very beginning, Russell and Manu have a much more personal relationship just in the way they greet each other. Instead of an awkward handshake, they go for a full-blown hug twice. This creates a different environment from Cassie and Forrest because the more touch contact you have with the person, the more personal the relationship is, and the more you will fight for each other. This is why you always greet people with some sort of touch contact. Usually a handshake with men, usually a hug with women, unless it's a professional situation. Russell and Manu are the only team I've seen so far who started out with a hug. They have by far had the best teamwork in all the episodes I've watched. Even though you can see Russell is a little weirded out by Manu's hippie energy at first, but he holds on and doesn't insult Manu like Cassie insults Forrest. If you screw up a first impression, it is very difficult to work your way out of it. And here is why you don't want to screw up those impressions.
It's the morning of after that night, and it was way difficult.
It's freezing, and we're soaked. And then literally, as I sit here, I can feel the board shaking underneath me from my partner shivering.
I feel like I'm in the jungle.
I know, right? So, night 1 in the jungle, in the shelter. First night staying there, we didn't sleep. It was more of a chance for us to really get to know each other. We stayed up the whole night laughing, telling jokes, giggling.
That's actually pretty cool.
Party in that shelter. We were just hanging out.
That's really cool.
You can see a massive difference there in a team that works well versus a team that doesn't. Forrest and Cassie have a shelter that breaks down because Cassie is incompetent at survival, and she would rather spend more time arguing with Forrest about how good she is than be comfortable in a working shelter.
Well, that's not the good one to use.
Like,
Oh, that's the one you just used.
if I were looking back on it as far as making the shelter, it was a little bit problematic because we both had different views as to how we want to do it.
I mean, she just buried that stick. 2 inches. You know, I understand she's tired, but just can't do that. I don't want to do this again.
Keep in mind, if you haven't seen this episode, it's not just the clips I've shown you. Cassie spends the entire episode insulting Forrest and talking about how great she is. So then how about this example of Cassie's great expertise?
So can I give us a suggestion? We go to open it, instead of going from the side, go top down, we'll go in.
I don't think that he respects my skills because everything he talks to me about, he's like, oh, you know how to do this? Have you heard of this? Do you know this?
The green ones are, obviously, as you know, really good moisturizers.
It acts like I've never even been outside in my life before.
Look at the difference in their skill. Cassie awkwardly smacks the coconut like she's never opened one before, while Forrest takes control of the thing and cuts the crap out of it in one blow. Instead of showing humility and being thankful when she's proven to be wrong, she doubles down and again insults Forrest. She does that instead of taking direction from someone who is obviously more experienced than her. This behavior will get you killed in a real survival situation. Now, just for contrast, this is how Manu responds to Russell bringing her food.
Oh my God! Is that what I think it is? You are so my hero.
In my memory, the only time Cassie actually eats is when Forrest gets her food. She was so bad at this, she couldn't even knock down a couple of oranges off a tree.
There was a point when we ended up spotting an orange tree.
When we were there and the orange thing happened, I was finally so happy. I was like, yes, here's something that Cassie can do. This will boost her morale. It couldn't be any easier than knocking some oranges out of a tree. I've already cut the darn stick and put it there. I mean, it doesn't get any easier than this.
I went to hit it, I couldn't get it, and at that point I was like, you know, I need to give up right now.
You didn't get any?
Yeah, what else is new? Sorry you're having issues, but I don't have any issues as far as getting food when I need to.
Cassie has zero follow-through. As soon as things get a little difficult, she just completely gives up. And there are many examples of her doing that during this episode, outside of this one. She calls herself a survivalist. Well, that's not being a survivalist. Surviving without technology is extremely difficult, and if you don't have your game face on, then you will die. The only reason she made it through this challenge is because everyone else helped her. However, that didn't stop her from insulting everyone the entire episode. And speaking of, yes, this whole situation gets better because the teams combine and almost immediately Russell and Manu hate Cassie.
I just expected something better, you know what I mean? I just had better expectations, perhaps. I don't know.
I kind of told you both.
She's very unmotivated and hasn't displayed any survival skills whatsoever.
Now, it's one thing to judge this entire episode by self-report, because it could be the case that Forrest was just exaggerating Cassie's incompetence to make up for whatever faults he had, but when Manu and Russell pile on, it really shows who was at fault this entire episode. The only thing Cassie was competent at was doing her hair and creating makeshift clothes out of tree leaves. I think Russell said it best. The only skill in survival that Cassie displayed on this show was being able to get people to do everything for her.
Everybody has to contribute. Nobody's riding for free on this ride. She shouldn't be out here at all. She's been surviving off of everybody else. That is her survival skill. She's a leech. She's a parasite.
Eventually, Cassie hits her breaking point with everyone because they've been so terrible to her, so she decides to call them out on it.
Hey guys, I gotta say something. Like, I'm really upset right now. You guys have made me feel, nothing that I do or say matters within my mouth. I've been watching Bob walking along the beach, going into a swim, suntanning on the rock. Laziness doesn't add up to the
But you've been saying that about everything, Kat. You told me every day there's no rush.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video.
Answer the phone, Joshua!